Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the third chapter of the infrastructure monitoring series. So, in the first chapter, we discussed about the four tools which Nagios has to offer, and in the second chapter, we discussed about SNMP, which is Simple Network Management Protocol. And in this third chapter, we will be going deep inside Nagios Core, which is like the version 4.4.6 and is also the latest version while I was making up this video. So people do ask which monitoring tool you should use. There are a lot of them such as PRTG, you have SolarWinds, then there are a lot of other huge list 15-20 tools you can find, and even more than that. But almost each one of them is paid. So the best part about Nagios Core is that it is open source monitoring tool and you do not have to pay anything like like on the software. So obviously because it is open source, so because of this it has its own disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages? If you just see up my screen, this is the Nagios Core web UI. So if you see over here, we have home, we have tactical overview. In tactical overview, we can see what all network parts you are monitoring, and is there any service which is critical. And you can see over here, there are two up host. Then we have host, which is the same page, which says that we have two hosts. On one, we have the Nagios server. So this web UI, this has this web UI connects to the Nagios server, and this web UI is also managed by CGI. So CGI was in late 90s or something, start of 2000. CGI was a very common language between developers. So it was a language in which you were able to prepare pages, single page applications like this, where if you're clicking on services, then on the right side you're getting up the services, or if you're clicking on grid, then you're getting up the grid. But the disadvantage was the CGI scripts usually run on the server themselves. So anyhow, this does not matter as of now. What matter is understanding Nagios Core. So this is just a short representation of the Nagios Core web UI, and if you see that it shows us a lot of things, but you cannot configure a lot of things. So if I just go over here and I click on localhost, so these are only the commands which can be configured. We'll just zoom in my screen. So these are few commands which can be configured. You can say that you can disable notification for this host from this web UI. Otherwise, this web UI is basically for seeing viewing the stats of your monitoring targets. That was one point. But if you are using some paid tool such as Nagios Xi, which also uses Nagios Core, we will be discussing very deep inside the libraries, and we'll be seeing each of the file, how Nagios Core work, each and everything in this video. This is just to start to make you comfortable with Nagios, that there is some UI which looks like this, and what are exactly are you doing? You're monitoring up machines. So when we will see up the diagrams, so I always believe that if you see up things and then read theory, it becomes easier for you. So that's why I am just showing you up how I have built up this tutorial. So in this tutorial, I have my laptop which you are seeing right in front of you, this is my laptop, and on this laptop I have VirtualBox installed, and on this VirtualBox I have these two machines, which is Ubuntu and Ubuntu Target. So these are nothing but two machines, two computer system on which we have installed operating system Linux distribution Ubuntu. So the above one, which is this, on this I have installed Nagios server, and this is the server which we are monitoring. So in total we have two servers. This is nothing but the local host for the Nagios server, and this is what this is saying. When I go to the host part, it says that it is monitoring the local host, which is this is monitoring this machine, and then it says it is monitoring Ubuntu Target, which is nothing but this target machine VirtualBox. So why this name is coming up over here, we will see how we can change it, or what all things we can do out. That is a different aspect. The third part, before we go and like start deep diving into the files of Nagios Core, is like it is open source. So does this mean that it does not provide all the functionalities which are provided by like the paid tools? It does not mean that it provide all the functionality. In fact, like this is what is being used by Nagios Xi. But the major difference lies in like here you will have to put up your head into the configuration files because you are using the software for the free. But Nagios Xi give you a very intuitive front end, a web where you can configure all of the things. Second, like you can see performance graphs. So here in this web UI, you cannot see performance graphs. Like you have some performance information out here, but like this is very like not so cool to read. You don't have a graphical representation, which makes it very difficult. So this is like why paid tools are being used in the market, but like being a engineer, it's like you should know how to use a core, and if you know how to use a core, you can build up a paid tool of your own. So the next part which I want to show you up before we just go ahead and read some theory is these like emails which like I have set up, and like these email like are being shoot up by the Nagios server. So if you see over here at the very top out here below the date, we have the email address which is no from nagios @ gmail.com. This is an ID which I have prepared on Gmail, and like for this ID, there is an option with Google. You can say that allow less secure apps to send email using the APIs. So obviously, like for integrating this with the Nagios Core, we require an SNMP client which is capable of like sending up the request to the Gmail server. So this is what like we have set up with Nagios, and like this is also which we will be seeing up further in the study how we did it. Just for a glance, like how it looks like the notification type is problem, because there is some problem with what we have a problem with this machine. The address of this machine is this IP address, and the state is critical. In the similar ways, if I move ahead, then you can see that we are monitoring a service over here which is HTTP. So what is the difference between a service and a host? When you say that you're monitoring a host, it means like you're monitoring a machine, if it is working fine, it is started or not. Service is like you are running a web server on a machine, and then you're monitoring that web server. If that web server machine is running fine, that is okay, but is on that machine we have the service running. So this is what we say, like we are checking up the HTTP service which is critical in this case. If I move ahead, then we are checking up the SHS service for which we are getting up the critical alerts. Then we have HTTP service alert. Then we have SSH alert. Then HTTP again, and similarly, then there is some recovery. You see that there is a notification type of recovery. So the notification type can be of various types. When a system recovers, like it goes down and it again goes up, so it is said to be recovered. It went down and then it recovered and went up. So it is a normal English. And again, you see the IP address, then you see the information, then you even see the date, time when it was sent. So it is very, very important for you to integrate email, because this is the way you always like keep touch of your entire system. Obviously, in a big infrastructure, you cannot see all of these emails manually. So there can be a mechanism where you can read up the emails and like see a few other things, and like there can be a lot of things which can be done. And the last thing which I want to show you today before we just go ahead and see up the theory is what we have in the machines. So what I mean by that, you see over here that we have two machines, Ubuntu and Ubuntu Target, right? These two machines I'm talking about. On one we have the server, Nagios server, on in second we are monitoring it up. So at the very top of this place, you can see what machine it is. So if you see over here or over here at the very top of this, similarly, if I just move it, so these two things. So if you just see up over here, so these two are two different machines. So one is Ubuntu, second is Ubuntu Target. You can see the name out here, right? So when you have seen the name, so we are going on the first machine, which is Ubuntu, which is nothing but Nagios server. So what I will do is I will go to files, Let me go to other locations, my computer, and just search for a word which is Nagios. So how this will help you? This will help you in understanding like what exactly we are talking about when we will be like knowing up the theory part, right? So if you see over here, this machine has these files. So let us talk about them for a while. So these files which are below are where these files are in user local Nagios. So if you see over here, we have Nagios folder in user dash under like slash local path. So this is the path of Linux machine, and there are few files which is nagios.conf in Apache. This is like because Nagios server also has the web front. So in on this machine we have Apache server installed, which is nothing but which what like but it is something like which is managing up your web server. So this is nothing but the Apache server. Because of Apache server, you are able to see this, and as all these things are on CGIs, built on CGIs, so you should have an Apache server which is CGI enabled. I can say it this way, right? So after installation in user slash local location, there will be a folder created named as Nagios, and this is where the software is installed, and this is the place where you will have to do each and everything. In the similar way, if you see all these things, these are nothing but the temporary files which I have created for my reference. So these were not created by the system. If I scroll down, most of the things are in user local Nagios. Let me scroll down. So this is nothing but a Nagios service. What is this file? If I go to my terminal and just say sudo systemctl status Nagios and hit the password, you see that there is a service, Nagios service running, which is active. So this file is managing that. So if you do not know much about Linux, that is fine. Sudo is something which gives you the root privilege. I have put up the sudo password. Then systemctl is a package which is being created by Ubuntu themselves. So this is something which is used for all the services to know their status, restart the service, start a service, stop a service, etc. etc. So in the similar way, you are getting up the status of what service? Nagios service. So this is Nagios server which is running out here, and this service defines that. So similar in the similar way, like there is another system file for service which is created at this location. Then we have these files again in user local Nagios folder. So everything which is being created, most of them is in user local Nagios folder, and like that is something very important. So I will just go into it, and it has a folder structure where we have a lot of things. We have a bin folder where we have all the executables of Nagios. So this is the executable file of Nagios, and like we have start then Nrpa uninstalled because we have installed Nrp here. So we will talk about it in etc etc. Most of the times you people will be working in the etc folder because this has all the configuration files. So one thing I will like to tell you over here is like as this is the Nagios server machine, we have so many CFG is nothing but a configuration file. We have so many configuration files, but this will like not be the case in the part which we will be having in the target machine. There we will have only one configuration file that will be for NRPE agent, because on that target machine we will be installing of the agent. So what is an agent? What is agentless monitoring? What is agent full monitoring? What is active monitoring? What is passive monitoring? We will talk about it in our theoretical part. Let us just concentrate on the folder structure as of now. So in this etc we have objects. So these objects define like what all things are being monitored by Nagios. So in this case, when I say that I am monitoring two hosts, one is localhost and second is target machine. So we should have two files over here. One is for localhost. So this defines like the monitoring target. Second is target server. This again defines the monitoring target. If you have a printer, you can define the printer here. If you have a switch, you can define switch here. You can template, you can define template here. You might wonder like if I have to keep the names of these CFG files same. No, it is not necessary that you should keep the names of these CFG files same. You can change them, but there will be a file which is in etc directly nagios.conf Cfg, which is this file makes sure like what all things are being included and being monitored. So if you have created a file, like I have created a file for target machine, so that particular target machine file should be here. So if you see up over here, I have this thing written out here. If you see this line 36. So I created up this file which is target server.cfg. In this I wrote something and I told Nagios. So how do you tell Nagios like what is to be monitored? You tell Nagios using this Nagios.cfg, which is in user local Nagios etc folder. So here this is a file which is for like st password. What is st password? If I just go ahead over here and copy it and open it in Internet Explorer and just say hit paste. So as I like open it, I enable it, it asks me for a username and password. So here I will have to put up my username, which is Nagios admin, then my password which I have kept to be root, and click OK. As I click OK, it should come up. Using a password send for basic infection isn't secure. Okay, so it is over here. I might have put up the wrong password, but you see the username and password, and this is what is defined like using these files. This connect to Apache, and like they are doing a lot of stuff, right? Then we have Cgi.cfg, which is like for managing the configuration setting for the CGI. What is CGI? We will just talk about it. If I go ahead, this is libexec. This file contains all the plugins. So Nagios operates on plugins. We will talk about what are plugins and like how exactly these plugins are important. But if you see over here that most of the files in this particular folder, which is libexec, start with check. So check. What they are doing, they are checking different aspects. What is being monitored? If you are checking a cluster, if you are checking a disk. Similarly, if you are checking FTP, you are checking HTTP, you are checking ICMP. This is a protocol. And then if you are checking IMAP command or like mail or anything else, so there are a lot of things which can be checked. And like these are nothing but the plugins. With Core, you have to install the plugins separately. We will discuss about them, but we will discuss in a while. So if we move for like next is SBIN. These are the CGI commands. If you see what I was just speaking about loudly from so long, that Nagios server is built on CGI, web UI is built on CGI. This is what it means. Like whenever you hit something, like if you hit something like say host, if I hit host and let me open up just the networking tools settings. Now I should be getting up the networking tools by F12 by pressing F12, right? Okay, I think that I've pressed F11. That's why it's showing me up this. So F12, and if I just go back to service group and clear all the network part and just go back to host. So if you see out here, we must be having some CGI which is being called. This is the CGI, the very first one, which is status.cgi. So where I can find this status.cgi? I will just say this. This is status.cgi, which is like fetching up the host data for us. So mind it, whatever I am showing up to you is the compiled software which is being put up on Linux, and like Nagios Core installation is from the source. So what do we mean by source? Source is like we download the source, which is nothing but the code written in HHL, which is high level language, and then you like compile them or interpret them and then convert into some executables. So these are nothing but the executable files. If you want to see the code, what is running behind all of them, you might have to download the source and we'll have to check it. So we might have a look into it as well, but let us proceed and like not waste some time. So var, like in HTTP server, we have var folder for keeping up the files and folder which are of variable size. So maybe like you have a content which is growing up every day and you're putting it in a same file, so you will put up that over here, or all the HTML files which are going up about should be out here. So these are nothing but these variable files which have to be checked and used by Nagios. And these are actually the HTML file. I think the share folder contains the HTML files, and these HTML, you can see we have PHP HTML files, whatever things we can see out here, HTML page and all these things are available out in this folder. So you see that this particular folder, which is user local Nagios, is really very important for you to understand, and like just to make a difference what is running out in the agent machine. So this is my agent machine, which is Ubuntu target. Let me just make it a little big and open up the folder structure in it as well. So we just go over here and say Nagios, and as I say Nagios, there are so many things. I should have been to other locations, my computer, and then say Nagios. It will search the entire system, mind it. So here also we have a folder in user local, which is Nagios. Let us just concentrate on this folder for now. Let us go to bin. If you see in bin, we do not have so many files which we were having in Nagios server. We just have Nrp, which is nothing but the agent which is being installed. In ETs, we have just one file, which is Nrpe, which is again the agent which is installed. And then in libexe, we have all the plugins. So this is required by Nrpe, and this is how Nrpe works. We will talk about Nrpe in some while. We will be discussing of the like the theoretical part. Next, if I go ahead and see the share folder and local folder, and like it does not have a lot of things, you can just have an exploration by yourself. In variable, we have the log files. Again, the log files, because these are variable sized files, so we have put up a log file because it keeps on increasing up. Similarly, we have the PID files because there are a lot of processes which are being created, destroyed, created, destroyed, and this is why like this is how like this folder structure is being created. So I think that we should be okay up with our part where we can say that we have seen the files. And I always believe that whenever you're learning a software, you should like bifurcate things into hardware and software. When we are talking about hardware, you should always see things as machines. When you're talking about software, you should see things as files. So now I think that we should be good enough to go ahead with the theoretical part. So today we will be having a demo on Nagios Core, and in this demo, like we will first be like seeing the Nagios Core architecture. Then we will see what is Nrpe, then what is NCPA. Then these are few concepts which are related with every monitoring tool, which is active passive monitoring tool, hard soft state types, down versus reachable node, or like there is something called as data flow between files in Nagios, then monitoring public and like private targets. So what are public and private targets? We will discuss about it. Then use of macros. So this like using these macros, we manage the data flow between different files in Nagios Core. So we'll be talking about them. Then we will talk about what is the difference between notification and alerts, and at last we will be speaking about configuring event handlers. So what are event handlers? So you just saw that we were getting so many emails about the machines, if the state was okay, or it was down, or it was critical, if the service was critical, if it was not responding, it was unknown. So what things should be done automatically? So let's say that HTTP service went down. So what you should do? There you should hire a person who will just go to the server and check why it has went down. In most of the cases, you will restart it. So this is what like the event handler does. It does this automatically using a script. Like you might say that 95% of the times, like you know that your application after 30 days, like it gets filled up with caches, gets filled up, the server is completely full, and you need to restart the service or maybe something like that. So there might be few commands which you must be running like in those cases. So you can set them up in the event handler as soon as the like you can set a rule saying that please check the disk. As the disk goes above 75%, you are just restarting the service, and like it will clear all the caches, etc. So these things are done automatically. So what exactly are event handlers? Event handler is like what should be done when a service is gone down automatically, right? So because of this, they have given up event handler. Then after these things, there are some advanced topics, which is OCSP and then OCHP. These are something like which are for passive monitoring, then gathering performance data. So these plugins, which using which we monitor various systems, they also give us the performance data. Some of them also give us the performance data, and like this is how the plugin system is built up of. And then we might be able to create up a distributed environment. What is distributed environment? So in this case, we were having one Nagios server. Like we just saw the Nagios server, which was the Ubuntu machine. And let's say that your architecture, company architecture has thousands of components which have to be monitored. Now, the load of all these thousands of components will come up to this particular Nagios server. In our case study, in our tutorial, we are just monitoring one Ubuntu target from Ubuntu machine. But in actual life, there will be routers, there will be printers, there will be storage devices, there will be Windows machines, there will be Linux machines, and a lot of components, say 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 50,000. It depends on the company, like the number of people the company are having, and like a lot of other factors. So when you say that you're putting up so much load on the Nagios server, so what you do, like you divide the server load into two different machines, and then after that you can get the collaborative, like collective results from both the machines to a single machine. So this is what a distributed environment is. Then we have support of APIs. Yes, Nagios Core support APIs. They support APIs using the NCPA protocol. So at first, just try to understand the terminologies which is being used in the monitoring or infrastructure industry. It is not about Nagios Core, it is not about PRTG, it is not about SolarWind, it is about monitoring. So that's why you should be like capable of knowing all these like terms. So this is what like we will be doing in this complete tutorial. Let us move ahead and see the architecture of Nagios. So one point you will find this everywhere, like plugin makes Nagios work everywhere, but also makes it complex. So how exactly this works? So if you remember, we saw the plugin folder in which everything was check underscore check underscore. The file names begin with check and these things, right? So we discussed like it was like Nagios, like which is like using up the plugins and monitoring of the machine. So how exactly this happens is, if you see over here, H1, S2, S3 are nothing but the hardware. H1 is the hardware where you are just opening up the browser. It does not have anything else. It is just the client machine where you open up the browser and hit a URL and see the web interface. So we saw the web interface, Nagios Core web interface during the start of this video. And it was also on the same my Windows machine. So you can say that my Windows machine is the hardware for browser. And then we have the Ubuntu machine, which was Nagios server. And these Nagios server actually use a lot of plugins. So you have plugin 1 over here, then you have plugin 2 over here, then you have plugin 3 over here. So these are P1, P2, P3. So my writing up the letters is very not so clean. So you have process schedulers and Nagios server. So these all things, the part of software of Nagios does not talk to the monitoring target itself. They talk to the plugins, and these plugins like in turn talk with the monitoring target and return the result. And after returning the result of each of the monitoring like request, the work of Nagios server comes into picture. It manages, it shows you like what all things have like doing what, and like if it has to send an alert or it has to send a notification. What is difference between alert and notification? We will talk about it. So Nagios server is basically the orchestration engine. You can say it this way. This might not be the right word, but yes, you can say it because it does not interact and monitor the monitoring machine itself. It just talks to the plugin, and that's why it makes it so easy. If you want to monitor some machine which is like being built up custom and it some follows some custom protocol, say if you're having a monitoring machine which is a Cisco router. So what does Cisco does is like they have their own protocol which is netstat. Using this protocol, you can monitor the Cisco router. So here you need a client. On this machine, you need a client which can talk to netstat, and after talking, it can get the results. So after getting the result, this script will pass these results in a particular format to Nagios server. So this way, these plugins are independent of what they can monitor. So at the end, what you can monitor from Nagios, you can monitor each and everything. It basically has three components. One is the web UI, which is CGI enabled, the default one. You have a lot of other ones which you can use, but the default one is CGI enabled. And then you have Nagios server, which is doing all your task related to monitoring. It knows what is to be monitored, how it is to be monitored, and like what all things can be done. Then actual monitoring is done by the plugins, and they can connect to the remote machine and take the data and then pass it on to Nagios server. What was actually happening, like all these plugins used to execute on Nagios server before. So there was something called as Nrpe. So now if you have to check the disk, so check disk plugin will not run on Nagios server, rather it will run on the remote machine. So if you remember, in our target machine, we were having the Nrpe installed on the target machine, and then after installing that, we have all the plugins on the target machine as well. We had all the plugins. So we were like executing these plugins, which were check disk or check load or check HTTP or check FTP on the host machine, and this, like by this way, the Nagios server was not having a lot of load, so its load was getting reduced. So when you're monitoring thousands of systems, you can monitor them now with a single user, because you are not running these plugins on the server machine, rather you are running the server on the host machine. So this is agent based monitoring, and if you're running all the things on the Nagios server, that is agent less monitoring. You can do both of them. We will see live example of both of them in the scenario, and we are already having, I've already implemented it. Now the problem with this approach was, like when you are in executing all the plugins over here in agent based, there is some extra load which is put on the actual server. If this is your actual web server which you are monitoring, there's an extra load which is like being put up frequently, like as many times you monitor it, because you monitor it 24/7. So there is some extra load which is being added, but this extra load is very less because we are monitoring very few components majorly in the major case. But yes, you should be cautious in defining up these components and like using them on the remote machine, because they have an extra load. So this is how like the Nrpe was developed and like built, but this particular Nrpe system can be used only on Linux or Mac, and it cannot be used on Windows. And due to this, there was a requirement of creating a new protocol, which was NCPA. NCPA. So what is Nrpe? Nrpe is Nagios Remote Plugin Executor. As the name suggests, is Nagios Remote Plugin Executor. On the remote machine, it executes the plugin. Nagios Remote Plugin Executor. What is NCPA? NCPA is Nagios Cross Platform Agent. So like we installed Nrpe over here, in a similar way we can install NCPA, and instead of Nrpe over here on this machine, on the target machine, we will have NCPA. So in this particular tutorial, we will be studying about Nrpe. Obviously, we have a very wonderful, fabulous tutorial of NCPA from the Nagios community itself. You can refer that. But all of these things are the same. You need to just do a single scenario by yourself, and you should be capable of doing everything by yourself. So what all things Nagios Core monitor? So basically, you can monitor everything which can be monitored. So why I say that we can monitor everything which can be monitored, because there are few network components such as routers, switches, storage devices, and printers which do not have the capability of getting monitored. So if you're not sure about it, please go ahead and like see the second chapter of this series, which is on SNMP, where we have discussed, because most of the monitoring targets are being like monitored using SNMP or JFlow or NetFlow or SFlow. Then we have the operating systems. We have Android, we have Windows, we have Ubuntu, we have Linux, other distributions, and we have Mac. So we can monitor anything with Nagios, irrespective like of the technology being used because of the architecture it follows, because every dirty work is done by the plugin. So when you say that, how you need to monitor it, you need an agent to be installed on whatever thing is to be monitored, and then like there needs to be a piece of software. We usually say it as a command. So like we have check this, check all, check NRP. Similarly, if we are like doing a monitoring using SNMP, so we can define a file as check SNMP, or we may even write it of our own. So it depends, but like what all softwares we need, and at what all places do we need them, it should be like clarified at the very first stage. So if I just go ahead and let us see the features of Nagios, and we will not take a lot of time. So it does active monitoring of host and its services, because services are contained within an host. Then it can like send notifications using email. We have already seen it. Then we can even write a script which send up the SMS notification. Then we have event handlers. We have already discussed event handlers are things like which are being triggered when we have a problem. Passive monitoring. What is passive monitoring? We will discuss about the difference between active and passive coming ahead. Collecting performance data. This is again a feature of Nagios Core. We can collect performance data. Then we can do distributed monitoring. We have discussed about it. What is distributed monitoring? Then we can manage different kind of users. We can create like a lot of users. The user list go till I think it is till 256. I will just have to check it. I will show you the page where we can check it. So it is managed using macros. The security level is managed using macros. Then we can have a centralized view of entire monitored IT infrastructure, which is again the feature of every monitoring tool. Then we have unlimited support. What do I mean by unlimited support? That Nagios can monitor anything which can be monitored. You can write up your plugins of your own. Then they have the API support, RESTful API supports using NCPA, which is Nagios cross-platform agent. And obviously, being of the most used open source community, they have great documentation, and a lot of people are like answering the questions. If I just go ahead, and we have already seen up the email notifications, it looks like this. I will just go ahead and show you up this page. So there is something to discuss on this page. This page is taken up from Nagios community itself. So if you see over here, NRP is like what we are doing in this tutorial, and it is on Linux and Mac, but it is not on Windows. Nagios says that NS client is not on Linux and Mac OS, but this is not the case, which is being said by NS client, which is a separate community. So they have, if I go to their website, you can go up, like, and check up their website. They say that they can monitor each and everything, and they are now cross-platform as well. But with Nagios, this is what should be used in most of the cases, which is NCPA. Obviously there are different needs as per different like type of softwares being monitored. Then we have something called as NRDS. Again, this is an agent for passive monitoring. So what is passive monitoring, we might like discuss next. All you need to see is like there are some things like which are not being included, and like you can see up these files by yourself. If I go ahead, so why NCPA is mostly used? Because NCPA can monitor all of these things. So it has pre-configured all of these things, but in Nrpe you might have to write up the commands by yourself. So this was the reason like I picked up Nrpe, because if you learn Nrpe thoroughly, you should be able to use any protocol, like any kind of agent, any kind of command. You should be able to build any kind of command by yourself. So the next part which we are going to talk about today is down versus unreachable. So what is the difference between down and unreachable? Both of the words look very similar. I will tell you the difference. For instance, like you have a server, like architecture or infrastructure, that is the right word. You have an infrastructure which is built up this way. So for your information, all these things have been picked up from Nagios community. All the images have also been picked up from them. So in this particular infrastructure, if you see that we have a switch. Using this switch, like we have a web server attached, then we have FTP, and then again a router attached. From router 1 we have internet, and this might be another office in Bangalore. We have router 2, and then we have a website. From this switch, like we have these two things attached. Now what happens if these two machines goes down? What will happen if these two machines like are not working, their Ethernet port is not working, or something goes wrong with them? So how will you identify like what exactly is happening? So what will happen if these two machines goes down? Nothing will like be impacted because of this machine, because this has nothing below the tree. But if this router 1 goes down, all of these things will not be reachable from here, from this machine. So if this router goes down, this Nagios cannot reach any of them, and this is the difference between down and unreachable. The actual server which is not working is this. Your engineer should not focus on these machines because these are actually working, but these are not reachable. But the unreachable, like the machine which was like down, is router 1. So the tool needs to identify which machine is down and which is unreachable. And how it does that, in like while defining of the configuration files we saw in the etc, in user local Nagios etc objects, we saw that we were having a target.cfg and localhost.cfg. In that we define host and we define services. So when we define host, so we say that we are monitoring switch 2. We tell that the parent of switch 2 is switch 1. So how will Nagios define if switch 2 is reachable or it is down? So when it checks switch 2 and sees that it is not reachable, what it will does is it will also check the parent, which is like the switch 1 for router 1. So you see it this way. For router 1, the parent is switch 1. But for this switch 2, the parent is router 1. So you will be actually monitoring switch 2. Here you will say in host name, you will say switch 2. And in the parent, you will, rather than saying switch 1, you will say router 1. When you will say something like this, so what Nagios will do, when it will say that switch 2 is not working, it will see its parent. If its parent is reachable and switch 2 is not reachable, it is down. But if its parent is also not reachable, it is down, then it means that it is like this switch 2 is not reachable, but the parent is down. In the similar manner, the hierarchy follows. When you will be defining up the switch 1, which is being defined over here uh, as the parent of router 1. So for this router, this particular switch is the parent. So this hierarchy goes on, and this way like the code of Nagios Core knows like if a machine is not reachable or if it is down. So while like defining of host and while defining of this like the structure of your infrastructure, it is very important you define them, the parents in host. So these parents will never be there in services, because services does not have like the parent, they belong to the host itself. If the host is unreachable or down, they will automatically go down. So there is no point like shouting upon that. But yes, these parent things are very important, and like they actually identify the right area. If you do not like define the host in this way, you do not define the parents of the host, then Nagios will never know what is the problem with the machine and where exactly the problem is, as we just discussed, right? So this was majorly about down and unreachable. Then the next topic which we are going to talk about today is active monitoring and passive monitoring. What is active monitoring and passive monitoring? So this particular box is nothing but our Ubuntu machine, which we just saw at the start of this video. These are the plugins which are there on the machine as well. And this is the host. So here the Nagios server is doing the monitoring. It is asking the host or service, are you okay? And the response is coming back to Nagios server, and they are showing you on the web interface. But there might be a case that you are using two monitoring tools. So active monitoring is like the Nagios server is monitoring the target machine, but passive is PITG is monitoring the target machine, but it is sending up the result to the Nagios server. So an external software is monitoring, but it is just sending the results for visualization to Nagios. Obviously with open source if you're using up an open source software, there might be no requirement of doing so, because the web UI will not be good enough to encounter that, right? But this also allows where like passive monitoring, you can create a web UI, a wonderful web UI of your own, use the same Nagios structure, and then like sell only the web UI parts, right? So in a similar way, like we have passive monitoring, which we have discussed, where we have external file command. This file is being picked up by Nagios Core, and it just check the data inside it, and like it stores it, and this data is sent by external applications. The point is these three things, like the active monitoring is done using these protocols, which are NRP, NCPA, and NS Client plus plus. NCPA is the most widely used nowadays because it supports all platforms. But for passive monitoring, we are using these two protocols, which is Nagios Remote Data Sender (NRDS) and Nagios Service Check Acceptor. These two, like, are again something which can be installed on the machine, and like they can be used for data sending of the data. And like Service Check Acceptor is again like the agent which is being installed, right? So this was basically about Nagios active and passive monitoring. Now, another thing which is very important for you to understand is the difference between alert and notification. So if you see up this diagram over here, we have service alert, we have service notification, we have service alert. One thing which I want you to see is like alert can be of type hard or soft. Notification does not have this type, which is hard or soft. Alert is something which is like triggered every time when a state is changed. What is state? So state of a host can be up, down, unreachable, unknown, right? And state of a service can be okay, critical, unknown. So I'm just giving you examples. Now what will happen? Nagios server, let's say that NS, Nagios server is monitoring a target. Let's say a machine which is Ubuntu, right? So Nagios server sends in a request to Ubuntu and it sees that everything is working okay. It just updates its data. Second time, it again checks Ubuntu and see that no, now HTTP service is not working, and it just checks it. But there might be a scenario that the service was not working for a few seconds due to some internet connectivity loss. So what it will do is it will check again, and it sees if the service is working. It sees like no, the service is not working. So you might say that it will check it 5 times. Why I say 5 times? Because this is a number which we have set up. So there is a variable while defining of the host. We say that check it 5 times before saying that it is an actual problem. This is what hard and soft is. Until the check has been made those many number of times, 5 in this case, it will remain soft and say that HTTP service is not working, but we have checked 4 times. Now we have checked 5 times, HTTP service is not working and it is not working. So it has become hard, and now it will go ahead and throw a notification. But every time when a state changes, a service alert is generated. So it can be a hard state, it can be a soft state, it can be anything, but a service alert will always be generated. So this service alert, you can see it on WebUI. But like you said, like I have checked 5 times, now I need to send in a notification. Notification means you are actually telling the user that this service is not working. So a log has been assigned in the name of alert every time, but after 5 checks, when there was no response, a notification was also sent. A notification means an email. So you actually attach the email with notifications. In a similar way, you will also attach the SMS with notifications. So you see that this particular check has been made 5 times, and now we have a need to tell the customer that this is not working, and hence like you shoot out a notification. So you can just say it this way, saying alert is raised every time a state is changed for a host and service, but notification is raised only when it has to be notified to the end user. So I hope this is all clear to you people, and next we will see the states. So for host, we are now talking about host. We have down state, we have unreachable state, then After unreachable, it will come to the upstate, which is the recovery. What is flapping? Flapping is like the host is getting down very frequently, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So you say that you're using Facebook. It was working 2 minutes back. It is not working now. It is now working after 2 minutes. It is not working now. So this is what it is. Flapping. So it also monitors flapping. Nagios also monitors flapping. Then this is like sending up the notification or schedule service downtime start and ends. And N is for not sending up the notification. So these particular things in red, the letters written in red are very important. This is how you tell when to notify. If you define a host and while defining you say that D, comma U, comma R, so it will notify when the machine is down, when unreachable, when recover, comma F, it will also notify for flapping, a comma S, so it will notify like when schedule downtime starts and ends. So these things are used in common, and this actually tells like what should be notified. Like this is the right word. What should be notified. So in the similar way, we have services, and like services have different states. These are warning, unknown, critical. Warning is like between like some say CPU utilization is going from 70% to 80% is warning. Above 80, we are saying that this is critical, or it is unknown because the system was not able to reach the system. So there might be some issue in the character network. Recovery is like CPU was 75% and now it is again 50%. Again, flapping is the same. CPU is going up and down very frequently. So you need to notify like what all things has to be notified for a service, and this is being like defined while defining of the service. So you will say W comma U comma C comma R comma F, and similarly the things go on. Next is hard and soft state types. So we have already discussed about it when we like discuss about notification and alerts. So the variable name is maximum check attempts. So it will check for these many times. So in our case, we kept it 5. Until it is less than 5, it will be logged as soft state. And after it is like, you can define an event handler for a soft state and even for a hard state. What is event handler? Event handler is just a script. When a system goes from up to down, so what should a system or like what command should be run on that system is what event handler like sees, and it can be run on soft or hard, both cases, but the customers are notified only on hard states. When if we have kept the maximum check attempt to be 5, then after 5 checks only it will send the notification or the email to customer. So this is how like the Nagios Core is configured. And next is installing up the code. So let's begin. So how we will be installing up these machines? So we will be installing them on these two machines. So on VirtualBox, I have like these two running systems which I will like switch off. So I will just switch them off and like show you up what happens. Let me close them. And these are the machines which are already set up. So I have switched them off, this one and this one. So now you can see that these two machines are powered off. And now if I go ahead to Chrome and just type in 192 Nagios, it will not respond. Even the 81 will not respond. So how we will be checking up the IP address and like what are the URL, we will discuss about it. So the point over here is like we will be doing all our installation on these two machines. So this will be our Nagios server and this will be our Nagios Ubuntu target, which we will be monitoring using Nrpe. So this tutorial is again I am saying on based on Nrpe. So if you're clear up with Nrpe, you should be capable enough of going ahead and reading of the actual documentation of Nagios and implement NCPA in a very like good fashion. So we have two machines, you have already seen them. So on the first machine, which is Nagios server, we will run all of these commands. Then on this machine itself, Nagios server machine itself, we will install the plugin. Then we will enable CGI for Apache. After that, we will install the check NRP on the Nagios server itself. So whatever we have discussed as of now, these four parts should be installed on this machine. What four parts? Check NRP command, Cgi enablement, plugins, and core. All these four parts should be installed on Nagios server. Then we will install few things on remote NRPE. What is remote NRPE? Remote NRPE is this machine which has to be monitored. Then we will install few things over here. Then we will configure remote NRPE. So we will also have to create a command. So then after creating up the command, and like we will be configuring up the remote NRPE. And after configuring NRPE, we will be configuring the Nagios server. So why I say this monitoring machine to be NRPE? Because we are installing the NRPE agent to this machine, and on this machine we are just installing the Nagios server. So this will be basically the process which we will be following up. And like before I just start like installing things, I want to discuss about Linux commands. So if you are already well versed with Linux shell scripting, it will be very easy for you to learn core. But if not, I will try to make you understand. Linux distribution are of different types, say Ubuntu, say Red Hat, say CentOS, and a lot of them, and all of them have different package managers. What is package managers? Like they have their own repositories of packages which can be installed, a piece of software which can be installed and like can be used. So for Ubuntu, the package manager is either apt or apt-get. This is the name of the package manager. So sudo is the root privilege. So you say that I am having the root privilege and please apt-get is the package manager. Please apt-get, please update. So all its repository will get updated in a similar way. In the second command, it will get upgraded over here. And then on the third command, we are saying sudo means root privileges, then packet manager apt-get, please install what all things? First autoconf, then gcc second, space, then live, this is third package, then make. I want you to take your focus on make. So make is something which is very important with Nagios Core. It is being used, widely used tool, and for installing Nagios Core plugins, agents, this command is very important. So we will discuss about it, about make. Then we have wget. Wget is just to download, unzip is to unzip the tar. Then these are a few other libraries which are required. So you install all of them. Then you install Apache 2, which is for your web server, and like this is how you see the web server. Then we have PHP. Some files are made on PHP, and this is again supporting file for PHP. Then we have sudo system enable, ctl enable. This is nothing but just creating up a service for Apache. So we discussed about it few minutes back. So after like doing all these things, this is where the actual installation begins for Nagios Core on this command. Before this, we are just installing the packages, upgrading the app manager, and like all pre-required things. So you see wget. Wget is nothing but a download, a normal download which you do on your system from browser. You click on download and this thing get downloaded. In the same way, wget is to download the resource kept at this location. So this we are downloading the nagioscore.tar.gz, which is the source file. After like downloading it, we are moving into it because we have downloaded it into temp. You see, -o is the output should go in temp this, and from where the file should be picked, the file should be picked from here, from this place, right? So after like doing all of these things, the next is sudo tar. You are extracting of this file. So this is the source file, not the compiled file, and this is not in user local Nagios still. Okay, then you move on to this file. After moving on, you say sudo.configure. So within this, like when you extract it, within this folder, you will have a file which will be named as configure. So you run this file, we will see all of these things in the system. Let's try to understand the commands first so that when we use them, it becomes easier for us to see and visualize and like understand things more. So what is the purpose of this particular command is like this, creates a make file within this folder, and this folder is in directory temp/temp. So now it will have a make file. The name of the file is make file, and in this make file we have a lot of data which is written, and these data are divided up by a heading. So if we have heading A, in heading A we have few commands, in heading B we have few commands, heading C have few commands. So here in this line, what we are saying is, give me a second please. Here in this line, what we are saying is, please run the commands of make file where the heading is all. So sudo make all. Here in this command we are saying, please run the commands of make file where the heading is installed group user. In this particular command we are just creating up a user whose name is Nagios, and like it is being assigned to a group which is www-data. So this group is essential for Apache server. So we have a connection with Apache and Nagios, right? Because we want a web interface also, and so like while installing it, Nagios system does all things automatically, but you need to create a user. You have to give it a user which is like attached to this group, and then like you again like installing few parts of make. In that make file there will be a part with install heading, then install config, then install daemon, then install webcom. So you can see that how important it is for you to understand the make command, because in like the actual installation of Nagios Core is done via make command. At the end we are just restarting the server and again like putting up the st password. So while we did like we logged in on the Internet Explorer, you saw that there was a password which was being asked, right? And where we entered Nagios admin and then the password was root. So again, this is the user which is Nagios admin. This is the user of the browser, only browser. This is not the user of uh, the machine, Linux machine. And at the end again we are installing another part of make, which is install command mode, and this will install core on your system. So if I just go ahead and show you how we install the plugins, again like what we are doing is like you can see that at first we have few libraries which are like dependency libraries and you need to install them. Second is like you are downloading the tar package, and like after downloading the tar package you are like moving on to the file, and then after extracting it. So on this particular line you have extracted it, then you move on to the file, you are running a setup, then again you are configuring. This configure will create a make file, and then you are making up these installations. So what this make will do, this will create all the plugin executables and will place all of them to the right places. So after you do all of these things, you will get the software installed on user local Nagios folder, right? So all of these things are done by the make file, and at the end you are just restarting your Nagios service, which is this. So Nagios is the service name which has been created by this software. So again, if I just go ahead and see how we enable CGI, these are two commands. So Cgi wrap is a wrapper for Apache, and then you're just saying A2EN mode CGI. So mode is CGI, and like CGI gets enabled. So obviously you do not need to get so deep into CGI. It is of no use for you if you are operating on Nagios Core. Then how we install Nrpe. So the process remains the same. Make file. You download the tar file, you extract it, you move it, then you again configure to create a make file, and then in make file you have various areas you run them. The commands will run automatically. So the main idea about installing Nagios is make file. So after doing all of these things, like we will be talking about macros. So this is nothing but a macro, but let us go ahead and like first install Nagios Core actually. So we will now start installing thing on Nagios server, which is this. So I'll just open it up. So this is the server. You can see at the very top it says that it is Nagios server. At the very top over here it says Nagios server. So after like opening up the machine, so if you do not know how to install VirtualBox and like then Ubuntu on it, so you can see up my tutorials of MySQL. I have mentioned the same like step by step over there. And if you're unaware of computer architecture completely, I will recommend you to go back and like see up the video series of computer architecture which has been created by us. So talking back about Nagios server, I've just opened up this machine. On this machine, like you can see that we have installed Nagios Core Ubuntu. I've written this up on Google and the first link was from linuxhint.com. So this is what you have to do. You have to open up a link like this, which will have all the steps again. So I have opened it up and let me just go ahead and copy it. And I will copy and do like all the commands sequentially. So let me go to terminal, and after opening up the terminal I will just paste up this command and hit enter. It will ask me for the password, root password, while you install up the OS. I'm giving my password and like it started working. You need to make sure that you are connected up with the internet because these all resources are being collected from internet. So you can see that I am connected up with my internet, which is Anand Goel. And if I just go back to my terminal now, so it is still working on. So what I can do is I can just open up it again and let us see the next command which we have to execute. So after upgrading the system, we have to like install few like the dependencies. So let me just copy this command and the previous one is still working up, you can see. So after the system will be upgraded, you will see some messages like this. So then we will like install the dependencies. So it might take some time. So let us go ahead next and like add a user named as Nagios. So let me clear everything and just paste it. So a user has been added. Then we will perform the next command as per this tutorial. I will go over here and paste it. A group has been added. Then we are changing the mode of the user to this group. So let me just paste it and the mode has been changed. And we are also assigning it to another group which is required for Apache, that is www.data. We have already discussed about it, right? Now I will just move ahead. Four of these commands are done and then I need to download. So it says like first move to temp. In this we do not have the -o option which we discussed in our like slides. So I'm just moving to the temp folder. If you are not aware how Linux works, in Linux you can go to other locations and my computer then. So these are all the like predefined folders. But as like Windows work, like the Linux does not work in the same way. It has different folders for different reasons, and like you can say that bin is for executable files, then var is again for variable sized files, then you have etc for configuration files for the entire operating system. So again, as we are like downloading this source as a temporary file, we do not require it because the source will get compiled and then it will like get saved into user local Nagios folder by itself. So that's why we are downloading in the temp folder. There is no hard and fast rule that you do it, but yes, this will be a good practice. I am just copying it. I'm saying sudo and just paste the command. So before just hitting up the enter, I will just change it to 4.4.6, which is the latest version now, and let me hit enter. So as I hit enter, it will start downloading it. You can see that the downloaded download has become, and the downloading speed is this. So this will take a while. Let me come back to my page. Here the next thing which we have is like to extract it. So again, let me just copy up this command, move back to my terminal. It will take another minute, I think so. So now you can see that this has been extracted. So if I just go back over here and if I go to the temp folder which is here, so you can see that we have something called as nagios.tar. So this is nothing but a zip file in your Windows operating system. And now I want to unzip it. So I'm already in the temp folder. So now I just need to unzip it. I will just hit enter and it says that I do not have no such file or it exists. Why it says that? Because I am using command for 4.4.5 but we have installed 4.4.6. So let me hit enter now and everything started up. And now you see over here that we have a folder which is Nagios 4.4.6. I just open it up and like let's see it for a while. So now if you want to see how the CGIs have been built, you can see in the language C. So this is the source code. You can just open it in editor and you will have the code. So this is the code which has been used. This is C code. And if I just go back over here and now if you want to like get the plugins, so like you will not be able to find plugins in this particular folder because like in Nagios you have to install the core separately and then you have to install the plugin. So you can refer back to my previous images of the theoretical part where I have made different images for different parts, right? So like this is the source folder, and as of now if you see that this source folder will have a file name as configure. So you can see over here that this has a file named as configure, and like this is the file which is responsible for like building up the make file. So again, if you see over here, we do not have any like make file over here, just the name make file, right? So we have makefile.in, we have make tarball dot something like that. So this was just the extraction, and like we have got the source. Now let us move ahead and see the next thing. Now I will just go to this directory which is cd and let me paste it. Obviously this time I will not forget to change the version. Let me clear it so that we move to the top, go back, and now let us run this configure command, right? So we are already in the folder, so the configure command should run now. So this particular command, run the configuration command, and it is doing a lot of stuff in front of you. Now after when you have configured it, so you can see some general options which says that yes, like the installation directory is this, and like there are a lot of things. Now you have to make all the software integrate and work together. So this is what like make is. So if I go back to my folder over here in Nagios, so you see now that there is something called as make file, which was not there like before. So we were having like make file.in, make dash tarball, but make file was not there, but it is now there after like configuring. So let us go ahead and run the next command, which is make all. I will just copy it and go back to the terminal and paste it, and this will show you some logs. You can read them if you want. Anyhow, that is not required. Then I will just go ahead and it says we have to make install. So I will just copy it and come back over here. So this might take a while. Let's wait for it. So as this commands get finished, so just go ahead and like paste the next command, which is make install. This will again show you up some logs and this will go over quickly. Next is this make command. Let me just copy it and let me just paste it over here and hit enter. So this is again good. Next is this. I will copy it. I will go over here on my terminal Let me just paste it and hit enter. This is also done. I will go down and there is another make command. Let me just copy it and go back to my terminal and paste it and hit enter. This is also done. I will move down and it says that update your email address. So we will update our email address later. Let us go down. It says fire up the web interface installer. Okay, so let us make the web interface fire up. So this is the make command. You can see again. I will just go back to my terminal and paste it, hit enter. This is also done. Then I go down and it says like please create a user for HTTP. So let me just copy it and go over here and just paste it and hit an enter. So it says too many arguments. So I have copy pasted it again. So you can see that it was because like it has two commands. One is cd, which is over here, and here the actual command begins. And let me also give the username, which will be Nagios admin, and let me hit enter. It will ask for password. I am typing in root and I am again typing in root. So my username is Nagios admin and like the password is root and root. So I have set up the password and username for my Apache. Let me enable it for CGI. Let me copy it and let me paste it. It is enabled for CGI and let me restart Apache server. Let me copy this and again paste this. So this looks good as per the document. If we move ahead, so next part is like it again says move to cd temp, and like this is this now we will install the plugin. So we have the same process of installing the plugins. So I will just move to temp and let me just copy up this particular wget statement, and I feel that this is the latest plugin version. So I will just say sudo and just paste it and just hit an enter. So the plugins will start get downloading and it has actually got downloaded. So now I will have to unzip it. So again I will just copy it to unzip the source and let me paste it. So now if I go back to my folder over here at temp, now I have two tar files. One is for core and second is for plugins. So I will just go ahead in plugins. You will see the plugins. So you have all the check underscore files over here. You can double click and see the code. So people usually ask me, how should I see the code? This is how you see the code. You see the code in the source code, right? So now you have the tar file. Again I will just move ahead and it says go to cd directory. So I will just paste it and I will move to this directory of plugin, and now let us go ahead and install plugins. So I will just copy up this command, which is to configure, and this will create a make file over there. Let me paste it and let me hit enter. So this should create a make file on which folder? In this folder this time, in plugins folder we should have a make file, right? You can see that there are a lot of things happening because of that command, and at the end when that command finishes you will just be seeing a make file over here. So it is still working, and that's why like this folder is showing up like this. So as the make file gets completed, you will like see the configuration blogs like this and make file over here. So if I just like press up M, so this is the make file on the very right side. So in the same manner, now I have to just say sudo make. It does not have any argument, so it will just pick up the first like the area which it gets in the make file. So you see that it has started making it up. So what area does this see in the make file? If I just open it up, how we define the areas, if you see over here that this file has some text, and if I just scroll down and I wait at some place where I see an area, show you up. Okay, so you see the tags, right? This, you can say this is an area. So when you say make C tags, so this code will run. So when you say make G tags, this code will run. So this is how like things go on in make file, and this particular thing is complete. Make is complete. I'm just moving ahead, and let us make and say install. Let me say paste and install. So this particular thing has been installed, and after this what we have to do is we are using Nagios on Ubuntu. So let us run this command, and I did made an enter. Okay, so it shows us that yes, Nagios Core is running on Ubuntu. Okay, and at last you can say that you can see that we have systemctl enable Nagios etc. So I will just copy it and paste it. It is very important command. Let me paste it. This will enable the service. It will create a link and this will enable the service. Now when you say that sudo systemctl status Nagios, uh, status Nagios, you will see the status. It is saying that this is inactive, but this is loaded. Then if you see over here and like want to like start it, you can start it or stop it as you want. But like you now do not have to run a command which looks like this one. So let me come back over here and let me start up the service because it was inactive. You just saw that. And let me scroll down over here and just paste it and hit enter. It says that no service found because I have typed it with small n, and now this should work. And let me say the status. Now this, you can see that the status of this is active and running. So it says that now you can go ahead to this IP address and you should be able to see the like the web UI. So how you should see the IP address on Ubuntu? You just need to type ifconfig. I think that this will not be installed and it will ask to install. Yes. So I'll just say sudo apt install net dash tools. So this will just install the tools for network analysis. I think that this should not take long enough. So this is done. So now again, if I say ifconfig, so I see the IP address which is this. So as of now, what I can do is I can just go to my machine and say localhost dash Nagios. If I hit, it will ask for username, which was Nagios admin, and the password, which was root, which we entered. And I say okay, and I say save, and this will show me up the particular like uh, page. Here, if you get a red cross rather than this like green right symbol, it means that you have not enabled CGI in like 99% of the case. Obviously, now how you can like open up this particular site from outside, say from here on my Chrome. So this particular site is on Ubuntu machine, on my virtual machine. So you might say that we can use this address. Let's try it. So I will just say 10.0.2.15, 10.0.2.15, and say Nagios, and like see, it's still finding it. It will not find it. So why it will not find it, I will just tell you. Because the adapter setting is not right. So what you need to do is like you need to go to the server and say settings. In settings you need to go to network, and here say like rather than NAT, let it be a bridged adapter, and here you say allow all. So these settings are very important. You can see them. So it should be bridge adapter and like allow all. As I do this and like say okay, it will make up few changes. And if I run if config again, so now the IP address has been changed. You can see the IP address is 192.168.0.105. Now if I write up this IP address out here, which is 192.168.0.5 and hit an enter, it should take me to the place 192.168.0.105. It is not 5 and that's why it is unreachable. Let me hit enter and say Nagios admin and say root, and it is up. So what exactly we are doing up with this bridge adapter is like we are saying that yes, all of these three machines, that is my Windows machine, this server and this target machine. So for this also I will have to go to the settings part, go to network and change it to bridge adapter and say like allow all, and then say okay. So now it means that all of these three systems are like sequentially put up and like connected up with wires. So that is what it says, bridge adapter, maybe virtually, but yes, this is what it means. So now I've showed you like how you can see up this web interface on your outside system, and like we have already installed Nagios with core and plugins. So if I now go ahead and go to my computers and then to users, which is this, and if I go to local and if I go to Nagios, we have all the files and we have all the plugins. In lib executive we have all the plugins and we have all the configuration files. You can see that these are all the default files which are being created, and using these files you will be creating up your own to monitor things. So for now we have set up the Nagios server. Now before we configure it, let us go ahead and install things on Nagios target machine. So the next thing which we will set up today is Nagios Ubuntu target machine. So here we have to install the agent. So at the very top you can see that this is Nagios Ubuntu target machine, and for this like I have opened up on Google and said like monitoring Ubuntu using Nagios, and there was an article from Boolean World which I got. So I just opened it over here, and this is where like we will be starting with up. So to set up the Nrpe machine, first thing you should know is like Nrpe is a protocol which like runs the plugin on the system which you are monitoring. So here we are monitoring up this machine, and hence like first we need to install all the plugins, all the Nagios plugins. So I'm just like going over here, and like before just installing the Nagios plugin, let us like first upgrade the system and install the all the required libraries at first. These things you have to do on every system. So I will just say sudo and let me paste up the command. So this will update it. So the updation has been done. So let us now upgrade, and after upgrading it, let us copy and like install the required libraries. So let me just move ahead and just copy this, come back. So this requires my yes, and it might take some time again. So it took quite long to get the system upgrade. So next we will have to like uh, install the dependencies. So I will just paste it, and like before running it, let me give it the root privileges. Just sudo, and now let us hit an enter. So it did not find a package, which is this. Let me just remove this package, which is lib2g dev, which is here. Okay. So we will see how we will like manage about this package. Let us remove it for now and again hit enter and say yes. So it did not find one package, which was this one, right? So let us just do nothing, go to Google and hit enter and just say package not found on Ubuntu. So you can see something like these. So open any one of them at first, random pick, and see it says like try this. So it's at the end it does not have just two, right? So the previous like softwares are still in progress, and like as they will get finished we will install this like remaining package. Okay, so now let us like just go ahead and install the remaining package, and let me just paste the name which I've already copied and remove this two, right? This was the correct name. So let me do yes, and this will also install up this package. And next, if I go back to my guide, after installing the dependencies, next thing which I have to install is install the plugins. So if I scroll down, I will find something like install plugins, and let me go over here and just copy this particular wget statement, come back over here. It is still processing. Let this process get completed. Oh, this is completed. So now let me just say sudo and let me just paste it. And after pasting it, the plugins have been like extracted. So here I am like installing the plugin which is not the latest, and that might cause some issue. So let me do one thing. Let me just uh, come back over here and say 2.3.3 over here and 2.3.3 over here and hit an enter. So this plugin has also been like downloaded. If I go to my folders and see over here, so this is the plugin which has been downloaded, and this has been downloaded in the home folder itself. So we did not download it in the temp folder this time. So now what I will do is I will just say extraction for this particular file. So let me copy it, come back over here and paste, and let me change the version which is 3.3, which we have just downloaded, and hit and enter. So this has been extracted over here. You can see that this is over here, right? Now I will go back over here and like configure it. Let me configure it. Let me copy it. Let me go over here and let me paste it, and let me give it sudo privileges to get it configured, and it will give me command not found because I have not moved into the directory. So I will just cd nagios and then a space, sorry, a tab. So using a tab you can get the entire word, you don't have to type it. And now again I will just give this configure command, and this configure command will start working, start giving you a lot of logs. And if you go over here there will be a lot of things, and the make file will be formed. Okay, so the configuration has been done, and this folder has its make file. You can see it has its make file. So I should go back and like install the plugins. So this is completely the same process which we did on the server. The thing is like we are only installing the plugins over here, not the core. And then after doing this, I should just not say this is not required because we do not have the core. So the plugins has been installed successfully. After installing plugin, I have to install Nrpe. So what is Nrpe? Nrpe is something which we will get from this command. So let me just copy it and let me say over here uh, sudo, and then let me just paste this command, and here I'm just pressing an enter. So before pressing an enter, so let me press an enter, and let me show why I was just saying before pressing an enter, because now this file will go into this folder, which is this. So I will just cut it, go to home and paste it over here. So now I will just cd and then this mark. So this will get me to home. So I can see up this tar file, and let us remember the version, because now we are installing up the agent on target machine, which is Nrpe agent, which will execute these plugins, right? But this agent is capable of talking to a command on the Nagios server. So we have not yet installed, and then after that we have to configure that command on Nagios server. So let us do the things which we have to do on this system first. And over here, let me just extract these files. So I will just extract these files and paste it, extract them, and after extracting them, let me move into Nrpe. So the process again remains the same, the installation process. It is just how many components you are installing. And again, I have to say configure. So let me say copy, and let me go back over here and give a paste and say configure. It will take some time. And the next is make check Nrp. So these are this is the same commands which we have to again run on the Nagios server again. But after that, we will make check Nrpe, and then we will install the plugin on Nagios server. So just to let you know, people, whatever we did on Nagios Ubuntu target machine, so there was a mistake which we followed up. Like at places like I did not use sudo. This was what I was talking to you few minutes back about the sudo command. And because of this sudo command, I was not able to see up this folder. In local, I was not able to see Nagios. So now what I did, I re-performed all the steps which we did in the similar order, in the similar manner again, just by applying sudo. So all the parts which were remaining and which were not fixed got fixed automatically. And now when I go ahead and on my Ubuntu target machine, the machine which we are monitoring, we go to user local Nagios etc. We have a file called as nrpe.cfg. So we need to use this file very much on this server. So let me say user, and then let me say local, and then let me say Nagios, and then etc, and hit an enter. And let me show you what all things are there in it. So we have a configuration file, and to open it I will just sudo nano and then nrpe and hit an enter. So this file is over here. So first thing which you need to do is, in this file you need to just move down, and over here in allowed host you have to give the server IP. So whenever you are running up the check NRP command from the server, this agent will only allow if this server is situated on this IP. So this is for security reason. And for doing this, let me go over here and say if config. So this has an IP of 105.192.168.0.105. So I am putting up the IP of the Nagios server. This Nagios server at the very top left, Nagios server, we are putting up over here, and we are saying 192.168.0.105. Let me confirm it. 192.168.0.105. 192.168.0.105. So this is what is being said over here, that in allowed host, please put up this. This is not required. Not sure why they have mentioned it over here. And after doing this, there is one more thing which you have to configure in this file. I am just pressing Ctrl S to save it. And if I just move down, there is something called as commands in this file. So you have to progress in the similar order. That will make things easier for you. So here if I just move down, so you can see over here that there are a lot of predefined commands, so you can use them. So whenever you are checking up the user, checking up the load, all these plugins, what plugins? This plugins, check user plugin, you can run this plugin from the server also with, like, by the default settings of Nagios. But if you're using Nrpe, to the benefit of Nrpe, you are running up this plugin over here on this machine. So similarly, we will set up a new command like we are doing over here, and in using this new command, we will be checking up something. And let me just see, copy this, control C, and then let me just go over here and let me just left click and paste. So you see a arrow at the very, like, left side. Yes, that arrow was something which was required. Let me save it and control X to move out. Now this command is to check the disk, but what disk? So for that, let me type sudo df-h. So we have SDA5 over here. The root is on SDA5, so we will be like monitoring SDA5. So let me clear it and let me go back and to my file, which is Nrpe file, in the folder which is user local Nagios etc and Nrpe.cfg. So here I'm moving down to the commands, and here are the command, and let me say this to be SDA check 5 because we are checking up the fifth number, right? So at the very end also, let me move it and say SD5 because it will give an error saying that it did not find it. Save it and control X. So our NRPA is like up and running, and you can check all the commands which I just showed you using NRPA, and like you can add a lot of commands of your own. Now this system is all set and like also configured. Now we can move back to our Nagios server and just install the command part which was left and then configure it to see all the things on the UI. So let me just move it down and quickly come back to my server. So this is my server. Let me clear it. After clearing it up, I will be going over here and I will just be saying like this, like monitoring Ubuntu using Nagios. So I will just will be opening up the same document which we were referring before, which is this, and as this gets opened, I will just scroll down and move to a part which is we have installed core, we have configured Apache, we have installed plugins over here, and then exporting the web interface is good. And then if I move down, so here it says install the check NRPE plugin. So this is what we want. So to install the NRPE plugin, check NRPE command. So what we will do is, like, we already have everything, all the dependencies set. So let me just copy it and let me go to maybe say cd dot and let me just see what all things are there. Okay, so we do not have an RPE, right? So let us just see if we have any dependencies to install before doing this. I think no. So let me go back to my server and terminal and say sudo and just paste this command, and this is the same plugin version where we were using over there. So let us just download it. So this has been downloaded over here, and after downloading it we have to extract it. So we will go over here, we will just copy this command and come back over here and paste it, and this is extracted, and then we will move into Nrpe directory. So after moving into Nrpe directory, we will configure it, and this requires sudo. Please use sudo with these commands because some internal commands might impact your access, right? So after configuring it, we will have the make file for Nrpe, and in the make file to install check our Nrpe plugin, we have to give up this command. So if I come back over here, this is going to take some time. This is generating an SSL certificate. Okay, so this is done. So next was making it up. So I am already inside it. So let me say sudo and paste and make check Nrpe. And after check Nrpe, we have to make install plugins. Let me copy it, come back out here and say sudo and just paste it. And this is all done. Then if I come back over here, let me copy of this command. This is a very important command. And just go back over here and let me just cd dot dot and let me actually move to user local nagios and then etc, and let me show you what all files are there. So if you see up my system and the files over here, the Nagios core starts up with this configuration file, which is nagios.cgf. This file knows how the core is operating and where it will find the files to crush. And what files to crush? The files which you are monitoring or the some other files. So if I just go ahead and say sudo nano nagios.cfg and hit an enter, so you can see that the log file position is here. It has all the file position. Then what all configuration files have been picked. So I need another configuration file over here which will monitor our other system. So what I will do is let me just hit an enter over here and say cfg underscore file equal to usr and then local and then nagios and then etc and then objects, and at the last let me say target server dot cfg. Right, let me just save it and come down. So I have told it like there will be a file in Nagios etc objects which will be named as target server.cfg. Please pick up and monitor that file. So this is what cfg underscore file means. If I just scroll down, there is something like this and then precache object file. So these file contains different things. You can read about them. Then we have the Nagios user, Nagios group, and these is for passive monitoring, check external commands. And then we have command file also. So nagios.cnd, which is the command file. Query handler is again for passive check, where you are like handling the queries. The passive monitoring is done using queries in Nagios. Then we have the log file, temp file, then even broker. If I go ahead down and move down, more down, these all are logs. Then maximum service check, these are some counters which can be configured. And if I again move down and more down, so this file is really big, and moving down, and let us see what all things are there. So you can see that it has a lot of variables, right? These variables can be defined in a lot of format, and like you can do a lot of stuff. But now, as of now, like we have what we did is like we tell Nagios to put up something over here as target.cgf. So let me copy paste it. Okay, this is not allowed. No problem. Let me open with text editor. Let me control C. I've copied everything out here, and let me. I should have been able to control C, control V. Permissions are not allowed, so control C and let me paste it. Okay, so I will just say cd objects, and to create a new file I will say sudo nano target server.cfg, right? And hit an enter. I will get a file. I will right click. I will paste everything. Okay, so I'm not copied anything, so that does not matter. Let me just write define host and close it. And here we have the parameters. So this is how we define a host. We say that the host name is we some gap and say it is ABCD, and then we say that this would not notify when, what all things to notify. Say for example something, there is a proper format, I'm just giving you an example. So you say that I need to notify the U comma F comma R, which we discussed in the theoretical part, the notification types. You have to give the host IP over here, and similarly a lot of other options. And then in this file you can define service, and as you define the service, it has its own like things which says that what is the host name of the service, on which host this is running. So this should be again ABCD, and because this service belongs to this host. So in the similar way, it does not have the IP attached, because IP is already attached with the host, and after that, like you can check what servers it is. So there is a format, we'll talk about it, and you can just save it and close it. So this file is created now. So as I was not having permissions over here, this file is right in front of you. You can see that this has the data. If I open up the local host, you can see that this is how this is created. At first, you are defining up the host, which is this, and after this, you are defining up the host group, which is this. If I move down, then you are defining up the service. So a host group can contain many hosts. The point which you have to see over here is the use statement. Use is saying use Linux server. Use is nothing but the template, which is the template file over here, this one. So this template file has few templates. When you say use, all the things which have been written between these braces will come up. So this is the template for name, and the name of the template is generic contact. So they have given this thing over here, you can use it. These are some blank files which you can use up, but they actually does not have any address. So this address does not matter because we have not added it in the file. Although we have it over here, this CFG file is over here, but this will not be picked because this is not like is mentioned as a variable in nagios.cfg, right? In contacts, like I said that we will be changing up the email ID. You can change the email ID over here. So here I can just say that my email ID is nagoel@gmail.com. So this is a file which says you a contact and what is the email ID. So when you define a host or a service, now let me come back over here. When you define a host or a service, say this one. So while defining it, you say like this host belongs to what contact, and the contact name is in this. So the contact name over here is Nagios admin, and then the contact group is admins, and this contact belongs to this group. This is a very like similar use case which we have in all the softwares. But the point is like now this contact can be like given up to this particular target machine, and like you can say that the contact is Nagios admin. So the email will go to this particular contact. Now let us quickly talk about like the email part and like how exactly this thing work. So for email, if you go in objects only, there is something called as commands. If you see up this file, which is command, it has all the commands which can be used by Nagios. So this command is something which also comes in this particular target, and it says what you should do. So when you're defining up a service, you have to mention a command. So what service it is? It is check underscore HTTP, right? And this command, what command is running, what plugin is defined in this particular file, which is nothing but this one, which is commands. So it says that this command is using what plugin. So let me just show you what is plugin. So if you see up this particular command, this is the command, this is using this plugin, and this is used by this user. If you see over here, this is something like which we will talk in detail, which is user this in the next chapter obviously. So this user is like over here, and this is nothing but a macro. So we will discuss about it in the next chapter. As of now, just see this, that this particular command is running up check ping, which is the plugin, and it throws a warning after this much amount, and then it says it is critical dash C after this much amount, and then P is for something else. You can like see the commands and like their usage. The point over here for this chapter is like this particular command.cgf is a place where like a command is tied up with a plugin or a terminal command. So here this particular notify by email or notify service by email. So whenever like this uh, host or service goes down, which is mentioned out here, this goes down. So if you have said like notify u or notify f, so what command will be called automatically? This command will be called automatically. You do not have to configure it anywhere. What you have to configure is this command line. The name should be the same because this is the name which is being picked up by Nagios Core, and this is the notification for email. So by default it believes that your email client from where you are sending up the email is situated at bin like slash mail, right? So for integrating email, at first you have to install the email client, which might be SSMTP, maybe SMTP. So there is another S before SMTP. So that is the client which I have used and we will be using up for configuring emails. But the point is like you should understand the flow of data. So when you see up the command, so in commands there are a lot of words which are written between these things. So these are nothing but macros, and macros are maintained by Nagios Core. So when we say that Nagios like this particular macros are maintained by Nagios Core, what it means is like whenever it is monitoring a host or monitoring anything, it will automatically like put up values in these macros. So this command is tied up. If you say this command, if this particular command is called by this host, so you have already said that notify when this is UF or R, and whenever there will be UF or R, what command will be called? It will be calling up this command, which is notify host, because we are defining host over there. So this command will be called, and as this command is called by a specific host, so the host name will be there in this macro. So this is the meaning of macro. So I hope this is clear, because I do not think that I will have to make another chapter for defining of macros, and this is actually what macro is doing. And if you're familiar about the command line, you should be able to use it in a good way. So coming up next, we have already like configured these things, and now we have to monitor the objects in a good way, right? So I will just go to this screen over here, and here it says that uh, to monitor it, you have to go over in this folder and like give this. So let me copy it, and let me again delete everything, and let me paste. So we have the host, we only have the host. Let me copy the service also. We have these two services. Let me copy it and let me paste it, right? And after pasting it, I want to see the IP address of my target machine, which is this. So let me go back to my machine, target machine, and say if config. So this tool is not sudo apt install net dash tools. This will install the tools, network tools. And after installing network tools, I can hit up if config, which is if config, and its IP address is 192.168.0.106. So I will move back to my machine, and over here let me first give the IP address, and here let me say the IP address is 192.168.0.106. Let me save it, and let me give the name. Let me give some simple name to this host and say it just a target. And similarly over here, what I am doing is I am monitoring this, and let me just say target because I'm monitoring target. And here again, host name will be target. Let me save it. So here you can see that we have the notification interval period. So it will like check this host for 24/7 and like a lot of thing, and like the template uses generic service, and then we have interval, but we have not set notification types. So notification types will be picked up from the template, I think. And let me save it and like close it, and after that you have to do sudo systemctl and restart Nagios to let it know that there are some changes into Nagios.cfg and like other things. So it gives me an error saying that there is some issue. So there is some issue with our file. Let me open it again and let me see it. Okay, so alias name, let me give it as this is my alias name. Save it, control X, and then restart server. It is again giving me some error. Let me go back over here and let me delete all the services. Let us just see one thing. Save it, and then let me run it. So this is good now. So there was issue with our service. So let me open it again. Go back over here and copy just one service, which is this, and let me paste it at the very end. And let me give it the name to be target. Let me save it, and here I have to use the command which is sdf5 because one is not there. Let me again, there is an issue with our service. So let me check it. What is the issue with our service? We are using upside right. We are using the right host name, and service description also looks good. Let me just change it to this. Generate service. Restart. Okay. So let us see the service afterwards. Let us first see what we have achieved as of now. So let me just remove the service and just restart my Nagios machine. And if I just go to Chrome and say 192.105, this is the IP of our machine and Nagios, and again hit enter. And if I go to host, so now you see that we are monitoring up another host which you have configured, and this host is up and running. And if you see the services, this particular host do not have any service. I will just have to check like why it is not working, because we need to like specify particular format, and from where you will get the format, obviously you need to go and try it out, not me. I already tried it out. So you can say object definitions of Nagios. So Nagios object definition is there, and here you will be able to find all the object definitions out here, right? So you have the service definition where you have the host name, then there are a lot of things which you can use. And like you can read up this particular chapter if you want, but my intention was to make sure that you understand the tool well and you're able to use it by yourself, right? If you're clear about the data flow and the files, then you should be able to use it in a very good way. And also if you understand the architecture, like why we install so many things where and how we install things, right? So again, one thing, like we are monitoring just the host as of now, but to monitor the service we need to monitor it uh, in the file. So I will just show you up how the service looks actually, which I have already set it up. So let me close this Ubuntu box And let me close this Ubuntu box as well. So there might be some issue with the spacing, right? So I might have to check it. So let me show you the predefined like file which I have built up. It is still opening up, and we say power off. Yes, and this also power off. It eats up a lot of memory of a system, and this is the reason I always make sure. Okay, so I think this is up and running. I will just say root and log into it, and after logging in, let me go to terminal, and let me just show you saying that cd etc usr local nagios etc cd objects and ls and then sudo nano target server cgf. Okay, so this is wrong. This is sudo and root. So you can see that I have already defined up the service out here. So there must be some spacing issue over there. So you can see that service is used in the same format, or else like we might not be using up the use statement. So that this may be the issue over there. So you can also see that how the notification options have been set. Like it will be notified when there will be like these few things, warning and like critical, and similarly like this will be notified, this host will be notified on these things. In a similar way, like I have also like configured up my email server. So let me show you up the same. So to see it, let me just say sudo nano commands. So we have two commands, co commands. So if you just see up over here that I have like changed up this lineup command. At first, what I did, like uh, I installed SNMP, and if I just go ahead, so you see that I'm not using like bin/mail. I'm using send mail. So this is a function which is being like you can say a file or piece of software which is being given by SNMP and being used by it actually. And these are the macros. So contact mail will be fetched up of the person who is calling up this command, right? This is managed by Nagios Core. So macros are very important for you to like build up these commands, and like this is actually how the data flow between different files in Nagios. So using this, like I did set up the command, and like you can even like type up anything you want. So here also like I have defined up the command for Nagios Nrpe check. So this command must be above, and the other commands which you can see like this, these all commands have been picked up from localhost file. So you do not have to write a lot of things. Most of the things are already written out here in the Nagios section. So if I just go back over here on my computer and over here and on USR and then local and then Nagios, so all the commands are already there. So if I go to objects and like localhost, so you have all the services which is already defined out here, right? So you can use these templates and like copy paste them and like create up things for you, whatever things you want. So the main funda again was to make sure that you understand things, and I hope that this was enough to make sure that you were deeply deep inside and the learning of Nagios Code. Let me know your questions, your queries in the comment section below, and I hope you would have enjoyed of the session. And stay tuned. This was Anand Goel from host-tune-perform.com. Have a great